Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, joined by my dear friend, the one and only, the great Matt Hladek from thespun.com. Matt, great to have you. Let's get right to it because you're in New York. You're a Big Apple guy. You're a huge Giants fan. I know you love Antonio Pierce. 2-0. What a job Antonio's doing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these are two games that coming into the year, you felt like the Raiders had a good chance to win. As the year played out, obviously, you felt like they had a chance to win, but I don't know if they win either of these games with Josh McDaniels coaching the way that things were trending. You know, I think Antonio Pierce, the game played out Sunday night kind of the way that we both talked about last week that we expected it would. The Jets, I said the Jets would hit some explosive plays. They have a couple of playmakers in Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, but the Raiders would have to buckle down and prevent them from getting in the end zone, which is exactly what they did. I think that some of the aggressiveness that you saw, that fourth down play near midfield late in fourth quarter, that sets the tone. When you're an interim head coach, you want to find a way to leave your mark on a team and set the tone. And obviously, I know Josh Jacobs fumbled later in the drive, so they had to play defense to close it out. But that was, a huge play, I felt like, because there's a risk there without question. I mean, you could have easily just punted that ball there and trusted your defense against Zach Wilson, and it might have worked anyway. But he went for the kill there, and I thought it was a great play call. I thought that you saw, I mean, I think the Raiders, Bo Hardegree did a great job of kind of mixing and matching and doing what they knew would work best or what Aidan O'Connell would feel most comfortable with against a really good defense. So through two games, you got to be really, really happy with what you've seen as a Raider fan. And they're fun. I mean, this is a fun team right now, which is, to me, when you're one of the teams in the NFL, and this is most of the teams in the NFL that aren't a Super Bowl contender, there's only a handful of those, you have to, the best thing your team can be is fun and be an exciting team and a team you can rally around and enjoy as a fan. And that's what the Raiders are under Antonio Pierce.
I want to dig in a little bit with you because I mean, I expect the Raiders to lose the next two. Can they win? Absolutely, they can. But I'm a realist. You know that I'm a realist. I think these are two games that they'll lose. I thought they would lose before the season started. I think they're going to lose them today. It doesn't mean they can't win, but our job as journalists is to present and discuss news, not create it. So I think that they're going to lose, be 5-7. They have one more game with the Chiefs that, again, they could win. I expect them to lose. That puts them at 5-8. And then they sit there with four remaining games that are all winnable. The Bolts, the Colts, the Broncos, and the
Minnesota.
Vikings, the Bolt. I'm sorry?
Minnesota's the fourth. The Bolts, Colts, Broncos, and Minnesota.
Yeah, in Minnesota. So I think those are all, winnable games. I mean, you think about that one. They're headed down to Miami this week, take on the Dolphins. I mean, that's just a very, very let's go back. I want to talk about this. Fans will say to me, and how can you say that? Well, I look at matchups. Tom Izzo, who of his generation is the greatest NCAA coach, the stats bear that out. It's a fact. He used to always say to me, people will say, how far do you think you can go? Well, I always think we can go to the championship, but sometimes matchups. You could see a Cinderella team that just matches up really well to the Elite Eight. Anyways, and this is one of those things. I think the matchups, the Raiders' biggest weaknesses are these teams' biggest strengths. On the Dolphins and the Chiefs twice. But you look at the rest of those games, they are all winnable. Doesn't mean they're going to be easy, but they're all winnable. I would like your thoughts on how that schedule lays out, because all of a sudden now, I don't think you're a playoff team. Never thought that. But all of a sudden now, things are looking pretty interesting for them.
Right. And again, I do think that they do lose these next two. I think that, Miami's coming off a bye. They have, that explosive offense is tough to contend with. I don't know. I think the Raiders' defense is better than its offense still, but I don't know if they can hold Miami down enough to score enough to win because you have to score with Miami to beat them. The Chiefs are the class of that division. So listen, could the Raiders pull off an upset maybe at home in 2 weeks? Things happen in the NFL, but I'm expecting them to lose those 2 games. But listen, you get home games against the Broncos, the Vikings, and the Chargers, and a road trip to the Colts, who are playing better this year, but they're not, world beaters. Those are, like you said, I agree, those are 4 winnable games. And here's the thing, if they can, to me, going into the season, I had them at 7 wins, maybe could get to 8. You had them at 9, maybe could get to 10. I think if they finish out of this stretch with 8 wins for the season, if they get to 9, I mean, that's an excellent year considering the start they had and considering the last half of the season was with an interim head coach, and considering it's a franchise in transition. So I think if I'm a Raider fan, listen, I said this last week. I predicted they'd beat the Jets, and at 5-5, you can dream playoffs. You're in the mix. You're in the conversation. But I don't think you can make that the be-all, end-all goal and be angry if you fall short of it, because it's still a long shot. Because I think, like you said, in order to make the playoffs in the AFC, you're going to have to get to 10 wins. And getting to 10 wins is going to be almost impossible with the way the schedule sets up and the fact they're only 5-5 right now. But to me, I think that if you can continue to see the signs of growth in this team, and this team playing hard and competing week in and week out, and they get a couple of wins, maybe pull off an upset, and they finish 8-9, 9-8, around there, I think you got to be very happy with the direction of the franchise then if you're a Raiders fan.
Totally agree with you. So let's talk about the guts of Antonio Pierce. I got a few things I want to discuss. I'm going to be writing about it next week, but I got a few things I want to discuss. Number one, he is impressed the players because, like Rich Bisaccia, he's not asked them to go win him the job. He's asked them to make this about them. That's leadership. It's not about me. It's about we. And they've responded. They don't like him, Matt. They love him. In fact, I'm going to, during the bye week, try to get up and see you in New York City. My wife and I are going to come up for a weekend. I can't wait to read you some of these, to show you some of these texts. I mean, they love him. And for them, it's fun to watch them respond to a coach, isn't it?
It definitely is. And I think when you see the way that maybe they weren't responding, or the way they weren't conducting themselves under the old head coach, and now they kind of feel that connection with the new guy. And he's a guy that's been through the battles in the NFL as a player. He's been alongside them as an assistant coach. Now he's leading them. And I think when you talk about the guts and the kind of go for broke, or riskiness, or willingness to put it on the line the way Antonio Pierce has, I think, like you said, he's not asking him to win him the job. But if you're an interim head coach, you can't lose the job because it's not yours. You're the guy who's just filling in. It's not like you say, well, I got to coach not to lose, or you coach scared. You have nothing to lose. So you go out there and you go pedal to the metal. You try to win the job. And I think that is what Antonio Pierce is doing with his decision making. I don't think he's, like you said, I don't think he's telling the players, go win me the job. I want to be the head coach, whatever. But the way he is approaching decision making on the field, and the way he is going about it, I think he's showing, that kind of, that zeal for trying to seize the moment.
One of the things has impressed me is he didn't ask the players, go win me the job. He didn't ask for their loyalty. He's earned it. And that to me is a very, very big deal. All right, I want to talk to you about Aidan O'Connell, the Rook. My article went viral. You're aware of it, of how it ended for Josh McDaniels. The first game, I understand it was a start. It's going to be on his schedule the rest of his life, so it counts. But in my mind, I just dismiss it because Josh did nothing to accommodate him. And oh, by the way, he still had better stats than Justin Herbert, but that's another story. These first 2 starts, they have tailored the game plan around him. Now, listen, I'm not an idiot. The time is coming, and it's going to probably be this weekend, where they're going to look at him and say, okay, Rook, if we're going to win, you got to win it for us. Our defense can't hold people to under 20 when they're offensively what the Chiefs and the Dolphins are. You got to go win this for us. And to me, and I totally admit, to me, I just like his maturation. In the interest of full disclosure, away from the camera, I have a very good relationship with him. I like him. I believe in him. I think he has done everything they've asked him to do. Now, they've yet to say, hey, if you don't overplay, we're winning this, we're not winning. I get all that. I get the caveat. I also know he's a second or third. He's had 2 or 3 starts, depending on whether or not you equate the first one. Give the Rook some room to grow here. I'm very impressed with Aidan O'Connell. Your thoughts?
Me too. And I thought that he looked very composed the other night overall against a really tough defensive line. The Jets get pressure left and right. Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson, Quentin Williams at the middle. They're all always in your face, and they make it really tough. I mean, they've made it really tough for the elite quarterbacks in the league that they've played. If you look at the numbers that Patrick Mahomes and Herbert and Hurts and Josh Allen have put up against this team, they have limited those guys. And I thought that Aidan O'Connell made some big throws that, you have to make. They didn't ask him to throw the ball an exorbitant amount. They leaned on the run game, but he made the throws he had to make. He showed composure in the pocket. And I thought he played very well for a rookie making his second or third start, however you want to define it, against one of the league's best defenses. Now, Miami is not defensively. Miami is not as good as the Jets, but they'll make it tough on him this weekend. He's got 2 tough matchups after that because the Chiefs are playing. We're used to the Chiefs having a great offense, and they still do have a dangerous offense, but they're one of the better defensive units in the league. And I know Steve Spagnuolo is going to try to make life difficult for him. And then later on, against the following week against the Vikings, Brian Flores loves to blitz. He loves to get after the quarterback. So, he's going to have some challenges coming up here. But I think this is all part of like you said, the maturation and the growth process, because this is, if Antonio Pierce gets the head coaching job permanently, now he has a base of Aidan O'Connell over these next 7 weeks, plus these last 2 games, to see what he can do. So going into the offseason, he says, all right, do we want to go into the year with this kid as our starter? We're contractually, we're tied to Jimmy. Jimmy will still be there, but Jimmy's our backup. This kid, we trust him to be our starter, and it could be a long-term guy. So that's great news for Antonio Pierce to get those kind of data points to evaluate. And it's also good if they do hire an outside head coach. That outside head coach now has all the tape and things that he can look at to see, where Aidan O'Connell will fit into his plans.
I want to talk about Antonio Pierce again because there's something that has really impressed me. I've been in a lot of situations where I've watched interim head coaches and it's not been good. The last 2 happened to be Rich Bisaccia and him, and I thought both of them did a tremendous job. And one of the things that I credit him for, he's not as old of a coach as Rich Bisaccia was. And so Rich had some years of coaching maturity to draw on, and hey, don't make this about me, whatever. Antonio has done that, but he's done a couple other things that I've noticed up close. Him and Bo Hardigree, and I'm going to have an article coming on their relationship, but he and Bo Hardigree, 2 completely different guys. One's hip hop, one's country. One's offense, one's defense. One's demonstrative, one's chill, is what the kids would say. Chill. Do you know what that word means?
Oh, yeah.
I just learned it. Okay, so one's chill, whatever. And the fact that he got to know Bo tells you a lot about his character, because they're so different. Nobody would have blamed them for not being friends. I mean, they wouldn't have hated each other. Just there wouldn't have been commonality. Instead, on a treadmill, They became friends. They found out they both approached football the same way. And he's told Bo what he wanted, which is what a head coach is supposed to do, but then trusted Bo. Same way with Patrick Graham. He's allowed these guys to go coach. And that's what builds loyalty in your staff. Would you just, I mean, I am so impressed with Antonio Pierce. So impressed. I'm impressed with the fans are saying. I'm impressed with his guts, everything. Talk about just how he's handled the spotlight. Because, man, he's been like he was as a player. He's not moved.
Well, I think that whenever, excuse me, whenever you become a head coach, especially for the first time, whether it's as the interim or permanent, I think being yourself and being authentic is so important. And I think that's what you're seeing from him, based out of what you're saying, based out of what else has been reported and what the players are saying. And I think that that is kind of the way he approached the game as a player. He was who he was. He was, authentic. He was upfront. He was the guy. He was a leader. He was the guy who, and he led in different ways. He could lead intensely by, getting in your face and motivating you that way. And he would lead by, studiously by being able to pick up other teams' signals or know what plays were coming and blow up a play before he even had a chance. He was great at that when he was with the Giants. He had such an immense knowledge of what teams were trying to do on the field. So, he could lead in different ways and he was true to himself. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of being a good head coach. Doesn't guarantee you'll be successful, but it gives you a better chance of being successful because the biggest thing that players can sense when a guy is BSing them or when he's not authentic or when he's trying hard or trying to be something that he isn't. And I think that that's doesn't seem to be the case at all with how Antonio Pierce is approaching the job.
I agree. He has been, first of all, without getting into details that don't matter, I knew Antonio before he came here. I like him. I've always liked him as a person, but he has won and earned my respect as a man and a coach. Just the way he has handled himself. I'm sorry. Patrick Graham deserves all the praise. Bo Hardigree deserves all the praise. The captains on this team deserve the praise. The owner deserves the praise. But there ain't nobody that's even in the stratosphere of the praise that Antonio Pierce has earned. Very, very impressed. Okay, Matt, I want you to give me your prediction for this weekend.
Again, I think this weekend, you'll see the Raiders will finally play one of the better teams in the league. Excuse me. I think that Miami this year has done a good job of taking care of business against the teams they should be. Where they've been a little bit lacking, so to speak, is they haven't really showed up against elite teams or teams that they're supposed to be in the company of, but they've beaten the teams they should. I think that'll happen this week. I expect the Raiders defense will kind of keep things close for a little bit. But I think Miami pulls away at the end. I think I'm looking at a 31-17 final, 31-20 final, somewhere in that area.
Right. So Matt Hladek picks 31. You said 31-17?
Yeah.
Oh, and you picked Miami.
Yep.
All right. There you go. Man, that was a great podcast just breaking down the Raiders, where the Raiders are. And I want to remind everybody, coming up later this week, I have an article on the dilemma facing Mark Davis. I think everyone's going to really enjoy that one. That's going to be super good. Got a lot of stuff coming. Matt, can't wait to see you in a couple weeks. We're literally just flying into New York City in the morning, spending the day having dinner. Hope to see you. We're going to go catch a show and fly out the next day, man.
Hey, that's fun, man. That's a great way to spend an off day and a bye week.
Off day in the bye week in the Big Apple at Christmas time. Come on.
Few things better.
It's going to be great. All right. I'm Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Could you do us a quick favor? Hit the subscribe, the follow buttons, You guys have been through the roof, over the top, amazing with all of your, again, expanding our coverage, but it's expanding because of you. Don't pay people for what we give you for free. Thanks for being part of us here again. From Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. From the spun.com, that is my colleague and one of my best friends on the planet, the great Matt Holatic. I'm Hondo Carpenter. Thanks for following us, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to you. We'll see you soon.